What's up, guys? I'm Joe Sudbeck.
I'm Jack Frankie.
And this is Crashin' the Boards, episode 2. And we had, last one was a Kobe episode, this time's trade deadline.
Trade deadline was on Thursday, so a ton of teams made a ton of moves across the league, and we're going to cover that up.
And we're also going to cover who we think should have made moves and what team maybe made a move that they really should not have made. And there's a ton of them, too, because there's a lot of bad trades this year, I think, more than usual. But I think there's also a few kind of good ones that show where teams are headed. And the first real big one that we're covering is definitely the Clippers, Knicks, and Washington Wizards deal. That was big, especially for the Clippers. And I think the biggest part of this wasn't even for what teams got. It was that the Lakers did not get Marcus Morris, and the Clippers did. So
That's huge.
They were able to stop the Lakers from making a move, and they made a move. That is good, too. I mean, he's a good player.
Because Marcus Morris as a player I would say, is a solid three-point shooter, and way better than Kyle Kuzma, in my opinion. So if the Lakers... Way better
than Kyle... You're saying that Kyle Kuzma is not as good of a three-point shooter?
As Marcus Morris?
As Marcus Morris?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
I do not think so. I think Marcus Morris is a good three-point shooter, but I think Kyle Kuzma is better than Marcus Morris.
No way. Marcus Morris definitely is the better three-point shooter, shooting... 44% or something?
Yeah, 44%.
44% from three and over 200 attempts.
And it's 33% for Kuzma. I would still rather have Kuzma clutch time shoot a three than Marcus Morris.
Well, if you look at what the Lakers need right now, I would say they need a solid. I think they need to let LeBron do his thing, work the paint, drive it, kick it, use his passing skills, which are amazing, by the way. Use his passing skills, kick it to people who can shoot threes, or drive the lane and throw up an alley-oop to either AD or Dwight Howard.
But
that's what I
was watching one of the Lakers games, and he already has plenty of shooters around him, though. Avery Bradley, David Green, two good shooters. And then you have Caruso. He has plenty of shooters around him.
But they don't play.
That's plenty of shooters, because with LeBron, you don't need that much to win. He already has more than, Anthony Davis and LeBron is already plenty, and then you had 3 shooters. You don't need that many shooters. They're not going to play that much.
But that's what they did in Cleveland. Remember? Back in 2014, they surrounded LeBron with a bunch of shooters like Kyrie, Kyle Korver, Kevin Love.
Yeah, but the thing is, that was almost too much.
And they won a championship.
But then, no, not that team.
The 2014 team?
No. Because they never won a championship with Kyle Korver. Being a diehard Kyle Korver fan, I know he's never won a championship. So my thing is that you surround LeBron with too many shooters, then you're lacking on defense. And when you play like the Warriors, like they did, that's where you run into problems. You want to play Kyle Korver, but he's not going to defend anybody on that team. He may be just as good of a shooter as Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. Maybe some people would say he's better, but he can't defend them at all. He has no matchup. Like his matchup was Draymond Green in that finals, and that was horrible because then you're making LeBron have to actually play defense and not give him any break at all. You're making Kevin Love have to guard their center, or if they go small, Kevin Love has to guard somebody else to let Kyle Korver guard Draymond. It just was not a good matchup for them. That's why the 3-and-D guys, when they won the championship with J.R. Smith, Amon Shumpert, those guys, they could shoot the ball, but maybe not as well as Kyle Korver, like Danny Green and Avery Bradley. They can defend and they can shoot. You only need about 3 of those on a team. And Caruso's maybe more of the true shooter than of those 3. And you only really need about 3 or 4, and they have 4. We don't really know their roster by heart, but I'm saying that I think the trade was a lot better for the Clippers than it was for the Lakers, stealing a player from the Lakers. And Kuzma gives them youth when they went from being young to being more of a championship-ready team.
Yeah.
Having youth to build on the bench and have somebody that can go score in the paint, on the ball, can handle the ball, finish at the rim, shoot. Where Marcus Morris is not going to have that same youthful spring off a bench to get them buckets handling the ball.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's why I think Marcus Morris and the Clippers, they don't really need that as much because they have just such a deep team. Off the bench, they already have their primary scorer, which is Williams.
They already have the 6th man of the year.
Yeah. So you don't really they need a big guy that can just maybe spot up and shoot and defend than a guy that just is going to go to the rim, attack hard. Now, for the Knicks sense, if you could get Kuzma for Marcus Morris, I would have accepted that right away. Because that's a cornerstone of a rebuilding.
Oh, yeah.
And I like what the Knicks got. Getting a 1st and 2nd round pick, that's good. Maurice Harkless, Mo Harkless, he's okay, but it's
really good role player,
The main thing is, I think they're definitely doing that to get the picks, which is perfect. The Knicks have always maybe not gone for the picks, like trades with picks, gone for the bigger names. That's a perfect way to start a rebuild, which really it's starting because of who they always get. Like the players they've gotten, they're older, like Marcus Morris in free agency. But what they did do, which I like, when they picked up Marcus Morris and those guys, they only did a 2-year team option on the second year. So if they didn't want the $10 million from Marcus Morris, they don't have to take it. Same with the Clippers. They can always not bring back Marcus Morris, which is perfect. It gives them an out for having a guy that makes $10 million plus a year. Now,
because Marcus Morris is getting pretty old, and they don't want to pay some
because if next year he's not doing so well,
they can just let him go.
They could if they retain him, he doesn't play very well, then you're kind of in a tough spot. Maybe next year he gets dealt again because they don't want him. This trade was mind blowing. Cleveland gets Andre Drummond. And giving up John Henson, Brandon Knight, and a second round pick.
Second round pick. Jeez.
I mean, Andre Drummond is a way better player than John Henson or Brandon Knight.
I would say Andre Drummond should have been an All-Star this year because he's averaging 17 and 15 per game every single year while sharing the floor with Blake Griffin, who's one of the top bigs in the league still.
But to me about Andre Drummond is he is just to me he kind of seems like a stat pattern because he plays on a bad team. So he's filling up the stat sheet with rebounds because his team's not very good, so they're missing a lot of shots. Now, I think he's a good player, but I just don't think if he played on a playoff championship team, he would average that many points and that many rebounds.
Well, obviously, because the Pistons' main scorers is their post game.
Yeah, and we had the argument of Kareem. You were saying that Kareem was a way better comparison to Andre Drummond than a Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
I said Joel Embiid's way more of a comparison to Kareem because of the points averages and how much of a dominant player on offense. I think the Andre Drummond comparison is Dikembe Mutombo.
Great defender who can also rebound, but then whose offensive game is kind of limited. Because he was playing
when he played on the Nuggets. He averages career high in rookie year, 17. He was like 16.9 points. Then when he goes on to more playoff caliber teams, Sixers, Nets, and then the Rockets was way later in his career. But when he played for those two teams, when he was in the finals, he didn't go more of an offensive guy. He was more of a rebounder.
He was more of a lockdown, take away
Shaq.
One of their players.
And that was why he was on that team because they wanted him you needed to stop Shaq if you were going to win the championship. So the Sixers went out and got Dikembe. I think a playoff team. Now, the thing about Andre Drummond is there's no big guy you have to stop. Like Anthony Davis is the only one you could say, because I would take Giannis over Andre Drummond.
Of course.
On the perimeter. Anthony Davis, I'd still take over Andre Drummond because he can take him outside.
He can also,
But there's no real just big guy that you need to stop in the paint anymore. And that's where I think he's getting lost in the shuffle is if there was a big guy that needed to be stopped,
there's not really.
Joel Embiid was just dominating everybody. Then they'd be saying, "Man, Andre Drummond would be a perfect guy to stop Joel Embiid." But you don't really have to. And that's where I think him going to the Cavs is showing that the Cavs, John Beilein thinks their roster is good enough to compete.
And they want to compete. I was just about to bring that up because by making this trade, the Cavs are like putting themselves in that little gray area of are they tanking, are they
like
competing?
The Pistons, what the Pistons were just in. So the Pistons, I think, to me, are going for more of we're trying to rebuild. You get a pick in return, even if it's a second. You get two younger, Brandon Knight's a little older, but John Henson's pretty young, and then you're getting rid of one of your better players. And the Cavs didn't dish Kevin Love.
Of course, yeah.
And that
so now they're pairing up Kevin Love and Andre Drummond.
And I think that'll work.
Along with their younger guards with Darius Garland, Colin Sexton. That should be a
And I think
killer
the reason
combo.
why that works is because you look at who they had. The Cavs have had Tristan Thompson and Kevin Love. To me, Tristan Thompson's kind of like the poor man's version of Andre Drummond. Great rebounder, pretty good, good solid defender on the inside, and is okay in scoring. Now you pair him up with Andre Drummond, who's good at finishing inside, great rebounder, great defender, and then Kevin Love can stretch the floor. That'll work perfectly. Those two, I think, will mix well. It's just, do they have a good enough roster to compete now or next year?
How deep's their bench is the real question.
Exactly. Now, this is, I think, the biggest winner of the whole trade deadline. I think the Timberwolves were the biggest winner of the trade deadline, getting D'Angelo Russell, Omari Spellman, and Jacob Evans and they gave up. Now, they did give up a first-round pick, Andrew Wiggins, and a second-round pick, but I've not been a big fan of Andrew Wiggins.
Andrew Wiggins has been less than advertised for since being the number one overall pick in 2014.
And he's been a part of 2 blockbuster trades now.
Already,
the Kevin Love trade, which the Cavs definitely won that, getting a championship with Kevin Love and the team.
Of course.
And
now
Andrew
trading
Wiggins, and now trade again for D'Angelo Russell. Andrew Wiggins is just an inefficient scorer.
Of course,
He may score 20 points, but if you look at his averages, it's like 30. Like he shoots like 30% from 3 and like 40% from the field. Which, if you're scoring 20 a game, that's terrible. That's terrible efficiency. And that's what's kind of holding back the team is when they've been good, not having Andrew Wiggins be there efficiently scoring the ball. Because even when Jimmy Butler was there, he just wasn't scoring the ball efficiently. It's like, well, how are we supposed to win?
Because the Timberwolves this year have been good when they've run the offense through Karl Anthony Towns.
Exactly.
And then when Andrew Wiggins is trying to take some of that load off of him and then not shooting as well, not being efficient with the basketball, that's where the Timberwolves' offensive rating starts to slip and starts to slide, and then that's where they start dropping close games.
And then D'Angelo Russell, point guard,
shoots the ball.
Exactly. He's not the best point guard, but you have a big guy, you have point guard. The last time, I wouldn't say the last time, it's not a great comparison, but when you compare a big guy, a guard that wants to score the ball like D'Angelo Russell, and a big guy that wants to score the ball like Karl Anthony Towns, it's a lot like teams tried to do. The Kobe and Shaqs. There's Kobe and Pau Gasol. Trying to pair up a big with the guard that wants to score the ball. It seemed to work. I mean, even this year, it went from 2 guys you can win a championship with to then the 3 guys. Now it's almost, to me, it's back down to 2.
Back down to 2, yeah.
Because, it went from 2 to 3 to 4, really, with the Warriors. And now I think it's back down to 2 because the past 2 years, really, the Raptors, when they won last year, they were really only Kawhi. And they had a great
defense. Great bench.
Yeah, great depth and great defense. And I'd say the second best player on that team was Kyle Lowry. And he's not really, I would say, a second star on a team.
Yeah, I would say they had one really good player with Kawhi, and then they had a bunch of 3-star, 3.5-star players with
I think
Marc Gasol.
Not Pau Gasol. Pascal Siakam was the second best player in that team.
Yeah.
It was Kawhi, Pascal Siakam, and then probably the third wheel was Kyle Lowry, who took way more of a step back role.
And they also had great bigs with Serge Ibaka, Marc Gasol holding down the paint. They could also stretch the floor too.
And I think the thing with these two, with this trade, and then the 2 teams that are the top of their conferences this year, LeBron and Anthony Davis, they're the 2 top guys in that team.
Of course.
And then there's some good, solid role players behind him. And then their third best player is Kyle Kuzma, but he's had to take a step back role, coming off the bench in certain situations. Now you look at the Bucks, the other top team. They play like 12 guys, 10, 12 guys, and they more focus on we need a pair of shooters around Giannis. Get as many shooters on the floor around Giannis as possible. And they really only have 2 studs, and that's Giannis and Chris Middleton.
Yeah.
Eric Bledsoe you can make kind of a push, but he just isn't the same. He is taking a lesser role like he needs to, and he's a perfect third option. But those 2 guys in each conference. This puts them in that mix. 2 guys that are studs with D'Angelo Russell and Middleton. Now it's a question of can the Timberwolves pair around those 2 guys? They never did it with Kevin Garnett. Can they do it with Towns and Russell? It remains to be seen, obviously, but I think this is definitely a step in the right direction for the franchise. And the Warriors, I don't know what they were going there. I like getting the picks, but Wiggins.
I think they might be trying to save. I think they're going to try to tank the rest of the season.
Oh no, I think that's
Curry and Clay being out.
But I think Wiggins, there people are saying that I've heard Wiggins is kind of like you could make saying, oh, he's the the Harrison Barnes of those early Warriors teams.
I guess.
But Harrison Barnes was a better shooter and more efficient shooter than Andrew Wiggins. Wiggins is just not that efficient. I think what will help is he can get to the rim better than Barnes can. He's more athletic. But I think for Wiggins' sake, hopefully he's able to resurrect his career on a good team and have a new, fresh start with these guys.
And another trade that made the headlines a little bit was the Heat traded with the Grizzlies for Andre Iguodala, Jay Crowder, and then Solomon Hill, but they sent away Justice Winslow, James Johnson, Deion Waiters, and Gorgie Dang. Joe, what do you think about that?
I think the Grizzlies won the trade.
Definitely. I would say the Grizzlies definitely won the trade.
Because Gordy Dang is definitely, from the Timberwolves, is definitely pretty young.
Way young, yeah.
And he's not like, he's not super old, makes a little bit of money, but he's pretty young.
Solid rebounder, solid
Justice Winslow I
defense.
like.
Oh, yeah.
He's young, can play a lot of positions.
Mm-hmm.
James Johnson's older, but it's mainly because you have to take some guys maybe don't want in to get a deal done.
Yeah.
Deion Waiters is getting up there, but he's in the middle of his prime right now.
He can still score the ball when he
Yeah, he can
wants.
still shoot. The Heat lost the deal. Because I like Iguodala and Crowder, but what they gave up was way too much.
Because with Justice Winslow, you get a 6'7" forward who has the handles of a point guard, but he's also big enough to hang with or to at least hold his own against power forwards.
Yeah.
Against
I think
those guys.
And Jake Crowder, I like Jake Crowder on defense. I like what Iguodala brings to a championship team, obviously with the Warriors, and now with the Heat, helping them maybe make another push. But I mean, Justice Winslow he's a good player.
Because now who's
he'll play 11 games, he averaged 11 points.
Yeah.
I mean that's
huge.
good. And then when he comes back, he's gonna be fresh because they're gonna let him probably wait even longer. And then now Jay Crowder, he'll be good. Iguodala will be good, but what are you gonna do next year? Then those two are gonna be even older what they are now.
Because who's gonna be the backup point guard for the Heat now?
Yeah,
backing
exactly.
up Dragic. Like they just gave away their backup point guard. Now they don't. Now that bench crew is gonna be a little bit slower, a little bit less playmaking on that bench squad.
And I think the main thing is you're losing a young piece and getting two older ones, and you're giving up a lot. I like getting Iguodala and Crowder, but I wish you could give up a little bit less to get that done. That was kind of the main critique for me is if you give a little less to get a little more. That wraps up this week's episode. I'm Joe Sudbeck.
I'm Jack Pernicke.
Make sure to tune in next week for episode 3, and you've been listening to Crashin' the Boards.